Welcome back to Power Money Monday. That's right. Welcome back to another video of Power Money Mondays, brought to you by Power of the BI, expressly at powerofthebi.com. That's right. Welcome back to another Power Money Mondays. Today we are going to be discussing another Fortune 500 company, one of the 500 largest companies in the world. Today's company is CVS. That's right. Today's company is CVS. Hey, before we get started, I want to encourage you to like this video, subscribe to this channel. That's right. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. It really helps us out. But so here's the deal. Again, we are talking about another one of the Fortune 500 companies, one of the largest 500 companies in the world. Today's company is CVS. CVS. So we are going to be going through creating a Power BI report and investigating some of the company, not necessarily investigating, but researching some of the company using some of our investigative strategies. So let's see here. Let's bring over our initial Power BI report. Here we go. And I just need to increase this size. Let's see here. Boom. And we're going to increase the size of this report so that we can see it. So again, today we are talking about CVS. What I definitely want to emphasize is the data that's in this report is not CVS actual data. This is the data set that we created in order to create a simulated report for a company such as CVS. The report that we're going to be going through as far as the annual report, the 10Q and the 10K, that documentation information, that is actually documentation that we are going to be, that is actual documentation. That's not actual documentation coming from that report to the Power BI report. But the main goal of this video is to teach you how, or show you how we use investigative strategies to research the companies that we may have, that we may be working for, whether it be a client, a direct client, whether it be a company that we are a direct employee for or contracting for. We're trying to give you some idea of how to make that work, how to research a company that you may be working for, whether it be a direct employee or if it is, and you can't see me because I can't see you. So I am going to come over and I'm going to jump on the screen here. But this is a client. This is a report. This report allows us to, you get a client, right? You get a client, or you're working for a company and they say, hey, they want you to create a Power BI report for them. Well, question is, where do you start? A lot of times you don't know where to start. A lot of times you don't have the actual documentation to get started with. So what do? We go straight over to the website. So today we're going to actually look at the CVS website. Then we're going to look at the annual report, maybe even look at a 10K or 10Q. We'll briefly discuss what that is and what the differences are between the two. We're not going to go too in depth into the 10K or too in depth into the 10Q, because this is more of the tech side of what we call fintech. Now, fintech, you ask, what is fintech? Financial technology. Financial technology is when you marry the two, when you marry finance and you marry technology together. So what we're doing here in this course is we're marrying financial education as well as technology education, bringing those two together, and we have what we call a fintech education. Now, I'm just going to throw this out here at you. For instance, if you guys have a mobile device, have a mobile phone or a tablet, and you've got apps on the tablet, and let's just say one of the apps on the tablet is from your particular bank, so that you can so that you can look at your banking information whenever you like. That banking, that app is technology. That banking information is financial information. Marry those two together, that app becomes fintech. So that's just to give you just a little bit of what you didn't even pay for when you came on here today. I'm giving you that for free. right? When you bring in technology and you bring in financial information, the financial data, that is fintech. And this education that we're providing you with here is fintech. We are bringing in financial data and we're bringing in technology information, and we're saying, hey, we're bringing these two together and you're getting a fintech education right here, right now at Power of the BI on Power Money Mondays. So let's do this. Let's get started. Let's get started here. And we're going to not necessarily zoom through, but we're going to get through some information so that we can get back over to what would be considered the Power BI report. But so here's the deal. Let me do this first. We are going to get back to the Power BI report that you see here. We are going to get back to this report, but we are going to build this report from cradle to grave. We're going to build this report from cradle to grave. Some of you guys may be saying, hey, you know, how do I even know that this is actually a report? How do I even know that this is not just a screenshot of something that you pulled off the internet? Because it's so sweet, it's so smooth, and like my man, one of my mentors say, it's so crispy. No. This is an actual Power BI report. If I come over and I grab my mouse, if I highlight over the logo, let's see here. Can't get my, there we go. If I highlight over the logo, you can see that now these are different elements within this report. The open, the close, the high, the open, the high, daily lows, the close. If I highlight over the donut chart, the clustered column chart, the line clustered graph, you can see that these are actual elements within this report. So even though it's so smooth and it's so crisp and it looks so professional, no, it is actually something that I created, right? And I'm going to show you how to create it so that you can create a smooth Power BI report as well, just like this one. But with that said, I don't want to go too in depth into this report until we actually build this bad boy out. We're going to start from the very beginning until the very end, and then we're going to build this. You're going to see this thing grow from an infancy to the maturation stage. I like that. That's another one of my 10-cent words for the day: maturation, to the maturation stage. But needless to say, let's get ready. Let's get an understanding of what we need to do first before we can even get to the final product. Let's get busy. So as you can see, we are now over here on the CVS.com website. We're over on the CVS.com website. Transparency. Total transparency. I am not getting paid by CVS to review their website, to review their annual report, to create a project, a Power BI report. I am not on CVS payroll in any way. I've never been an employee of CVS. I've never been a contractor for CVS, and I've never spoken with anyone at CVS to the best of my knowledge in regards to any type of employment. This is just another Fortune 500 company, one of the largest companies in the world that I am using to teach Power BI, that I'm using as a tool to teach Power BI. For me, it's always easier to teach Power BI of a company that's already established, a company that students already have heard about, already know about, so that some of the terminology does not necessarily have to be re-explained as far as what the company does and who the company is. So that's total transparency. I am not affiliated with CVS at all. This is not a CVS paid video. CVS does not have anything to do with this. So with that said, and I'm not even looking for CVS to send me any contribution. Now, if CVS want to pay me, I'll take it. But, for the most part, this is not a CVS sponsored video, and by no means. So with that said, we are going to build a Power BI report. That's why we're here. We're here to build a Power BI report. We're here to learn Power BI. And with that, in many cases, we may not know where to get started. We get called into a project. Let's just say that we're a contractor and we get called into a project, and the client is a client such as CVS. That client says, hey, we want a Power BI report. more often than not, the client does know about Power BI. The client does know that it does want the data visualizations and all the fancy things that come along with it. But we may not, they may not give us a whole bunch of information. And the thing is, they may say, you may know, you know what you're looking for. Now, with that said, when I say that they don't give you a whole bunch of information, they do give you access to their database, right? In order for you to build out to build out the report. But at the end of the day, the question then is, what do you want to see? What type of visualizations do you want to see? What's most important to you? Oh man, I just said a whole lot. So here's the deal. There are a lot of things that are important to a lot of different companies. And what's the most important thing depends on what individual within that company you're speaking with. If you're talking to senior level management, they want to see the overview of of the whole company. If you're talking to a project manager, they want to see what's going on their particular project. If you're talking to an area manager, that person wants to see what's going on all of the projects within their area, or what's going on, let's just say with CVS, if you're talking to a store manager, they want to see what's going on within the store. If you're talking to an area manager, they want to see what's going on within all the stores within their area. And if you're talking to a VP, they may want to know what's going on with all the stores within their particular states that they cover in the areas of the states that they cover. And if you're talking to C-suite guys, they may want to see the big picture of what's going on within the entire company, and they want to see it in a snapshot. So everybody wants to see a snapshot, but it depends on which individual you're speaking with as to, how much of a snapshot or what type of snapshot they're looking for. Now, with that said, you have the data. You have access to the database, because without the access to the database, it's impossible to build the Power BI report. Now, you don't have to have access to the entire database, because you may not be building a Power BI report based on the entire database. But for whatever you have access to within the database, that's what you should be expecting to build a report from. Now, here's the deal. Within that database, you may have 500 tables. You may have 100 tables. You may have 10 tables. I don't know. You may have 1,000 tables. You could have 1 million rows of records. You could have 10 million rows of records. I don't know. But the question is, where do you start? I've got this information. Where do I start? Now, in many cases, well, not many cases, but in some cases, the person, the company liaison, the business analyst may have a business document that outlines, these are the things that we're expecting to see in this report. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you are expected to produce or create in that report, but that's a starting point, right? They may give you a document. It could be one page, it could be several pages, and you can use those pages in order to go into the database and to determine, okay, this is the data that I'm going to start with in order to build this report. Now, that's in an almost perfect world society. Almost perfect world utopia is not necessarily going to happen every project, and probably more often than not, it's gonna probably be not, right? So then the question again comes, where do I start? How do I get started on this project? In 2025, the one thing you do have is a website. Definitely for the Fortune 500 companies. If you're working with a smaller company, they may or may not have a website. Most of the time they have a website, but it's not as detailed as need be, but it's still a website. It gives you some idea. So in this particular case, we're saying CVS. What are we going to build in this Power BI report? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go, we've got that business development document, but at the same time, we want to do a little bit more research. So we're going to go to the website just to see what these guys do. We're going to go to the website just to see what these guys do. So we go over to their website, cvs.com, and we're just going through the homepage initially, just scrolling through, just seeing, who is this company? What does this company do? And off top, I can see that they do some type of drug, some type of pharmacies, prescription type stuff, right? So, I can tell that it's got something to do with drugs. So, hey, I've got some concept of when I go into the database, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for drug-related, prescription-related information, right? But they also have other stuff that they sell. I see, or they have shopping trending categories here. So they've got, Easter and household products and sexual wellness and health medicine. So, just giving me some idea of who these guys are, what these guys do to celebrate Women's History Month. So that seemed like that may be something important to them. So, am I going to put that in my Power BI report? All of these things you should be jotting down. You should be writing down. I'm not necessarily writing it down now because I'm not trying to spend too long explaining to you or giving you a demonstration as to, what we're looking for here. I see that they have a Facebook page. They've got a TikTok page. They've got an Instagram page, and they have a YouTube page. So I could go to those pages as well to get even more information on these guys. So let's go scroll back up to the top. And I want to see their initial headings, because these initial headings really tell me what's really important, what's the most important thing, because the most important things to the company that gives you a description of who the company is, what the company does, that's going to be at the top. Like, for instance, schedule a vaccine. So, schedule a vaccine, that may be important to them. Now, as far as scheduling a vaccine for a Power BI report, that's not important. But how many vaccines did they schedule? On what days did they schedule? On which days did they have the most scheduled vaccines? That's important, because if they've got, let's just say if they got COVID vaccines, right? And say that they get COVID appointments or schedule COVID appointments come in on the majority on Wednesday. Say you get 300 on Wednesday and you get 5 on Monday. That means that, say you get 300 on Wednesday and 5 on Monday. One, you need to have at least, I'm gonna say 300 plus 10% COVID vaccines ready, right, on Wednesday. And then on Mondays, you may get 5. So you need to have at least, let's just say 5 plus 10% of 5 ready on Mondays. Tuesday and Thursday, there are no vaccines that you scheduled or have been scheduled in the last 6 weeks. So what I'm looking now is to how many employees do I need to have on staff that are able to give COVID vaccinations on Mondays and Wednesdays, right? Because these are the days that you're getting the most appointments. Now, it's okay that if somebody comes in and say, hey, I want to get a vaccination scheduled for Tuesday. Well, if you can get one person scheduled for Tuesday, but you're not prepared to get 20 people scheduled for Tuesday. So you let those people know on Tuesday, one, either the booking is full or they can reschedule for Monday or Wednesday, right? So now they're able to schedule better. You're able to create a visualization that shows, what days should be open for booking, what days should be scheduled to be closed for vaccines, whatever the case may be. So that scheduled vaccine, that has to be important, because that's one of the first things on the page. That's the first thing that pops out to me. Now, right on the side of the logo, right here, it says prescriptions. So that jumps out to me as well. So, what type of prescriptions are being filled on what days? Are the majority of prescriptions being filled on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Are they being filled from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock or from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock? When are they being filled? That's data that we need that's data that we could be able to provide in a Power BI report. That logo is the first thing that pops out to me. It tells me, hey, the logo is important to this company. This is what is making this company recognizable. Because if we take this logo off, we don't know what company this could be. This could be any pharmacy. It could be any grocery store that has a pharmacy. It could be any drugstore, right? So I know that this logo is important. So on your Power BI report, you want to have that logo on your Power BI report, because that logo means something to that company. And as I see here, when I look at prescriptions, the first thing I ask myself, are all of these elements that are here on the top of the page, are they in alphabetical order? Because if they're in alphabetical order, that could tell me it's not necessarily it's not as that important. Not that it's not important, but it's not as important as I've got it pictured in my mind, because it's simply in alphabetical order. But this thing says prescriptions, and then it says health. So it tells me off top that the first thing that's important to this company is prescriptions. How many prescriptions are created in a day, provided in a day, filled in a day, not filled in a day because they didn't have the drugs that were available. That's the data that when I go into the database, I'm looking to see, where is this data? Scheduled vaccine. Scheduled vaccine is right under the logo. That's telling me, hey, this is important. How many vaccines are scheduled in a particular day, in a particular week, within certain hours? Which type of vaccines are being scheduled for? Is it COVID? Is it flu? Is it pneumonia? Is it shingles? Whatever the case may be, we want to know what that information is, because this information, we need to go into the database and find this information, because this information is important to the customer. Then when I scroll over from prescriptions, I see health. Well, when I drop down health, what does health mean? Health means schedule a mini clinic, get primary care, book an in-home health, test results, schedule CVS, get virtual care. So these are items that I need to be able to find within the database that I have access to. That how can I provide this information in a Power BI report to this customer off the rip, because this is information that's important to the customer. And I know it's important because it's the number 2 thing on the list. I didn't even do the drop down for prescriptions, but as we can see, the items for prescriptions is sign in to refill, transfer to prescriptions, prescription labels. The prescription label is going to tell you, what was being prescribed, what doctor prescribed it, what hospital it came from sent that prescription in, what doctor sent that prescription in. So all of these drop downs, this is telling me, hey, this is the data that you probably should be looking for when you go into the database. Manage prescriptions. Let's see here. Managed prescription is not going to give me a whole lot, but let's see. If we go to photos, what does photos mean? Photos mean how many people are getting, let's see, you can see it here. Let's go slow down right here. Photos. So how many people are getting prints? How many people want same-day prints? How many people are getting creating cards and books and canvas and decor? I mean, all of this type of information is information that's important because it's right there on the homepage. It's right there on the homepage, and it's right there next to the logo. So that's telling me, hey, from a marketing standpoint, the marketing person is saying, hey, this is important information. So where I am going with that is this. When you go to the website, you want to see you're looking to see what is most important to this customer. What is important to this customer to see as far as data visualization. You know what a website is. I am not going to beat the dead horse about a website and what a website is, what a website does. But that is one starting point for you going in and doing some research, data research, as to what type of data you're going to provide in your Power BI report. So with that said, let's move on to the next topic. So the next topic is the next level of research is going into the company's annual report. Now, here's the deal. Again, I definitely want to clarify. I have nothing to do with CVS. I have no professional obligation to CVS, and they are not paying me to promote their company, their stocks, or anything like that. In this particular lesson, this particular video, I am not. Power of the BI is not promoting you going out and purchasing stock or investing into CVS. That is not what we're doing. We're only using this as a research and investigation tool. So with that said, let's see here. Let's take a look at the annual report for CVS. On this particular day that we are reviewing this stock, we're reviewing this company's annual report. It is currently at $65.06 as far as the stock value. A couple of things I do want to talk to you about before we get too deep into this is some terms that we're going to be using. We're going to be using terms like 10K and 10Q, 10K and 10Q. So 10K is an annual report. 10Q is a quarterly report. The annual report, both of these reports that are I believe, filed to the SEC for companies that are traded publicly. Traded publicly means that you are able to buy stocks from these guys, either, for instance, on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. But in this particular case, CVS is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. As we can see that above their value is the NYSE, which is New York Stock Exchange, and besides that is their ticker, which is CVS. So if you go to New York Stock Exchange and you put in the ticker CVS, the information will come up for CVS. Now, I just said that we're going to be the two terms that we use they're going to come up, and they're kind of almost used interchangeably, but they're really not. Just to give you some idea, and I'm not a super pro. You know, I do have an advanced degree in business, but I haven't really worked in the field of finance to the degree of which I could give you all the explanations, but I don't want to just be throwing out terms you not have any idea what I'm talking about. So 10K. 10K is the annual report. 10K is an annual report that's provided or filed with the SEC annually by a company that's traded publicly, right? Annually means once a year they provide this report. The 10Q is a quarterly report. It's a quarterly report that's provided every quarter, and it's provided 3 times a year. Now, you say, hey, there are 4 quarters in a year. Anybody that's not, even if you're not in business, you know that there are 4 quarters in the business year. There's January, February, March, which is 1 quarter. April, May, and June, which is 2 quarters, which is the 2nd quarter. July, August, September, which is the 3rd quarter. October, November, December, which is the 4th quarter. And you know, every company does not have to go by those particular quarter systems, but that's pretty much the standard. From what I understand, that's pretty much the standard as far as the court, how they count it. You can start your court. You can start a year in June. Say June, July, August is your 1st quarter, right? I'm not going to go too deep into that. Just understand that there are 4 quarters in a year, in a business year. However, I also said that the 10Q is only filed 3 times, right? And the annual report is filed once. The reason why is because the annual report, this is what I believe, again, this is my belief, is that the annual report is filed once a year. So it's typically filed in the 4th quarter, whenever your 4th quarter is. So then you've got 3 reports that are filed quarterly, 3 times a year. And then you have the annual report, which really meets that 4th quarter requirement. Well, the 4th, I can say requirement. I guess that's a proper term to use for that particular scenario. So you get the 10Qs, which are quarterly reports, are filed 3 times a year, and the annual report is filed once a year. Now you say, Tarai, you know, well, why are we going into this business course type stuff? Again, as I told you before, what we are doing here in Power BI is we are providing you with financial education that marries the tech education, which gives you fintech education. And again, as I said before, fintech goes together. It's married together, just as your app on your phone or on your mobile device is a tech app or a tech device, and the information that you pull up on that app from your bank is financial information, financial data. Those two coming together is fintech. So what I'm giving you is fintech information. Now, when you create a Power BI report, it's not going to always be around financial data. And as you saw probably in one of my previous videos, we tried to go with, I think we did have financial information. I think we did have financial information in that particular, just erase what I just said. But yeah, fintech, financial and tech coming together is fintech. And that's what we're getting here. We're getting fintech information. Well, a fintech education. So one more time, quarterly reports filed 3 times a year, once every quarter. The annual report filed once every year at the end of the 4th quarter. Just to give you just so you understand that the quarterly reports are not as detailed as the annual report. The annual report is super detailed. All the financial information that's involved with the company, the balance sheet, income statements, all the financial reports and financial documents are provided in the annual report. The quarterly reports are almost a synopsis of what's going on each quarter that's going to be provided in detail in the annual report. So that is the major difference between the annual report and the 10K and the 10Q. 10K is super detailed and it's audited. And I believe that the 10Q is not audited, right? I believe it's documentation that's provided to the SEC, but it's not audited, but the 10K is definitely audited. So that's just a little bit more about the 10K and the 10Q. One other thing that we're going to talk about that we're going to mention here is market cap. Market cap or market capitalization is how a company is giving its sizing or identified by sizing, whether it's large cap, small cap, mid cap. I think it's one micro cap or nano cap or something like that even. But what market cap is the total number of shares outstanding times the value by the value of the share. So let's say you got 1 million shares outstanding and the shares are $50 a share. The market cap is $50 million. 1 million shares outstanding. $50 is the value of each individual stock. That means it's 50 times 1 million. So it'd be 50 million. The market cap is 50 million. I don't exactly remember the sizing designations for large cap, small cap, mid cap, or large cap, mid cap, small cap. And I believe I saw nano cap. But I'll get that information for you for next time. But that is what that looks like. So let's just get to going and let's move inside of looking at the actual annual report. Let's see. So I'm not going to read I'm not going to read the report verbatim to you. You are more than welcome to go over to the annual report. And the way that you would find the annual, there's a couple of ways you could find the annual report. Let's make sure that we're on go. Let's make sure we're on go. We're not on go. Now we're on go. I want to make sure we're on go, and I think we are on go at this point. Yeah, we're on go. So I am not going to read you each item in the annual report. It could take days, weeks, months. The way I read it could actually take years because I don't read very fast. But the way that you can find the annual report, there's a couple of ways. I'm going to tell you the long way and the short way, the easy way or the hard way, whichever way you want to take is up to you. You can go to cvs.com and just like with most publicly traded companies, you can go to their website. Typically you go to the bottom of the page and you can go and they'll have either investor or investor relations. Another thing that I've seen the way companies have it is they'll have at either the top of the page or the bottom of the page, they'll have about us, and then you can click about us, and then in about us, then you'll see the investor, the investor link. But just for short, you can go to investors.cvshealth.com/investors/ default.aspx. Again, to get to the investor page, directly over to the investor page, you can go to investors.cvshealth.com/investors/default.aspx. And you could probably not even have to put in the default.aspx and it'll probably take you there. But anyway, that's how we get over to the investor page. Now, I spoke to you initially, previously about the SEC filings, the Q4, the Q3, Q2, and Q1 for the forms. And the form that we're looking at here is the 10K form. It's the 10K, the annual report. Again, it's either the fourth quarter report or the annual report, whichever one you want to consider it, but it is the form 10K. So basically, we're just going through the 10K and we are basically, what we're doing in our research efforts is we're trying to see, what stands out as information that this company may be wanting to see when it comes to data visualization. So as we scroll through, let's see here, as we scroll through the 10K, the initial information is just information that bottom line filing information. But then as we scroll through, we see the overview, and then we see business strategy. None of those, I think, are very, very important when it comes to creating the initial, when it comes to creating the initial report. But as we build out the report, we may find that we have individuals within the organization say, hey, we want to be able to visualize business strategy or healthcare benefits based on these factors and using these key performance indicators. And then we'll take those key performance indicators and we will build out our Power BI report. But for the most part, that's not necessarily something that we have to have. Now, when it comes to healthcare benefits, products, and services, that is something that is very, very important when it comes to a company such as CVS. So then we do want to be able to at least take into consideration healthcare benefits, products, and services, because products and services is how the company makes money. Products and services is how the company makes money, right? And at the end of the day, that's what's important to a company. How do we make money? Yes, it's important to provide, health services and health benefits, but the company cannot be in money. I don't want to say cannot. The company it's tough to be in business and it's tough to service people or individuals if you are not making any money. So we definitely want to try to identify, what are the primary ways for this particular company to make money. And that's going to come from services and products. So we have government medical. So we know that government medical is a very important piece into this company being able to make to make money. And let's see. Under government medical, we have Medicare Advantage, Medicare PDP, Medicare Supplement, Medicaid, CHIP, and duals. So, what does that mean to the company? I'm not totally sure because I'm not in the healthcare arena, but being a data professional, I know that there should be some data that is supporting this information. So given that this is one of the first things that shows up in their 10K, I know that this is something that's going to be important to these guys. So what I am going to do is I am going to go through this. I'm going to go through the data and I am going to try and see what data provides information when it comes to medical advantage, medical product, Medicare supplement, Medicaid and CHIP and duals. I want to know what information is provided that is going to be supported so that we will be able to create data visualizations based off of the annual reports information here for this particular data. We may use this data, we may not use this data. I'm not sure. It just depends if this data is really supported in the documentation, in the database, or if I need to ask other questions, is this data that needs to be used in the data visualization? Right now, I'm figuring we need to be able to calculate, we need to be able to show this data in some form in the report. So with this annual report, we are clear that this is an actual annual report for CVS, but this is not the actual information that's going to be used in the data set that we're going to be using for the Power BI report. But we will keep moving because what we're using this annual report for simply is understanding what information we would probably need or we probably could use to create the initial Power BI report if we were using this annual report to get an understanding of what types of KPIs is key performance indicators that would be needed for the Power BI report. So we'll keep moving. Healthcare benefits provider networks, of course. Definitely we would need to we could need to understand the need for healthcare benefits provider networks. Healthcare benefits, let's see, make sure we're live here. I think let's go back over. Let's get going. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now we rolling. Now we rocking and rolling, and we ain't joking. Let me get back. That's old school. We don't know that right now. Anyway, so healthcare benefit quality assessment. You know, we probably want to create some type, or I'm pretty sure they would have somewhere in the data set to where it would be indicating the healthcare benefits quality assessment. Let's see here, healthcare benefits information systems, the different types of systems that they're using for the healthcare benefits customers. Of course, the one thing, you know, as a provider or as a pharmacy, you know, who are the customers? Now, here is something that is very important when it comes to healthcare. There's something called HIPAA, which is a protection for the customer, for the patient. So much of the data that will be used to identify customers will be private information. So, you know, you won't be able to, well, you shouldn't put that information into a Power BI report. The name of the patient, the address of the patient, the phone number of the patient, definitely not the social security number of the patient. Never put social security numbers in a Power BI report. Let me back up. Let me reiterate. Let me say that a different way. Never put social security numbers inside of a Power BI report. Even if someone asks you to put the social security number into a Power BI report, double check, triple check, then check again 3 more times, right? I never recommend putting social security numbers inside of a Power BI report. I digress. Let's see, healthcare benefits, healthcare benefit pricing. Of course, you know, you probably want to have visualizations talking about pricing because we could be looking at pricing in certain different aspects. You know, how much is the pricing? Is the pricing in certain zip codes different from pricing in other zip codes? Medicine is the pricing of different medicines. I mean, we can go on and on talking about why you would need pricing and why pricing would be important for a healthcare provider or a pharmaceutical provider when it comes to a Power BI report. Healthcare benefits seasonality, of course. So when we start talking about seasonality, we're talking about what type of medications, what type of drugs are being prescribed during certain times of the year, during certain seasons. Of course, we already know when it comes to the flu vaccines and flu healthcare medicine, stuff like that, probably comes during, you know, the late fall and the winter months. allergies, during allergy season. So, you just being able to track this information will help the pharmaceutical company be able to identify when certain drugs are going to be needed in a greater abundance, right? Of course, you probably need allergy medicine more so. Well, I can't really say because I have allergies all year round. But anyway, it'll give them an idea of when to be on board for having more prescription types of medicines available, depending on what season certain things occur. Let's see here. Healthcare services, service products and services. Of course, that's what we're talking about all the time. Service products and services. What are the products that are going to be needed? What are the services going to be needed? When are those products going to be in the greater need, and when they're going to be in less need? When are those services going to be in greater need, and when they're going to be in less need? Right? Those types of KPIs are what would probably, again, what would be good for a pharmaceutical company such as CVS. Now, here's the deal. We're kicking and spitting out a lot of different KPIs, a lot of different data visualizations that could be needed by an organization such as CVS when building out a Power BI report. However, please understand that in most cases, your Power BI report may be one page, it may be 2 pages or 3 pages, but at the end of the day, you only have so much real estate. You don't have enough real estate to put in everything that's going to be in a 10K or a 10Q. Look, here's the deal. When we start talking about an annual report, there's so much stuff in an annual report. There's so much stuff in a quarterly report that you can't. I don't like saying can't. You're not able to use every visualization tool that's going to be available. That is probably going to be good for you to provide in an annual report. In your project, in your Power BI report. So, that's why we're going through this document and we're saying, hey, this would be a good KPI. This would be a good KPI. This would be a good KPI. This would be a good data visualization. This would be a good data visualization. At the end of the day, there's only so much room. For me, I try to limit data visualizations to somewhere between 6 to 10 visualizations per page per report. And even so, when we're looking at 6 to 10, we're probably talking about either 4 to 6 larger visualizations and then smaller visualizations across the top or across the bottom, across the side somewhere. Those smaller visualizations could be, again, like drop down slicers or cards with numbers in them or cards with words in them or something like that. But as far as with the column charts, the cluster column charts, the line graphs and stuff like that, I try to limit that to somewhere between 3 and 6 major data visualizations, because outside of that, it starts getting, your report starts losing real estate and starts getting real clustered and crowded. But let's keep moving, because again, I digress. Let's see, retail pharmacy network management services. We could be looking inside the database to determine, what are they using to measure network management services, specialty and mail order pharmacy services, clinical services. These are different services that could be offered at CVS. These are services that we are seeing that are offered in the annual report. And again, if you want to look at the annual report, this is totally public information. You can go to the website, grab it. You can grab exactly what I'm looking at. Disease management programs, medical benefit management, group purchasing organization services, value-based care. All of these things have some form of measure. They wouldn't have this in their annual report if they're not able to measure it some way. Now, that's me speaking as a data engineer, a Power BI developer, as a data scientist. That's me, you putting that hat on and saying this information wouldn't be here if they couldn't validate it. Now, Typically, when we're looking at validating data, and it's not necessarily something that could be aggregated, we typically will measure it in, if it's a 1, it's positive. If it's a 0, it's negative. If it's a 1, it's positive. If it's a 0, it's negative. And then we could say the more 1s it has, the better it is. The more 0s it has, the not so good it is. So, that pretty much, that'll allow you to be able to create a measuring system, not necessarily a complete aggregated system, but a measuring system to let you give you goods and bads, whether they be truths and falses, for different types of data. 2 programs administered: in-house health evaluations, Minute Clinic, let's see here, healthcare services information systems. So again, these are other forms of services and programs that CVS has and offers that they may want to be able to measure in some kind of way. Health services clients and customers. Well, basically, they're being able to measure the healthcare against what's being provided to their customer or their client. Health services seasonality, we already spoke on. And now, when we move into the financial data, again, we are not going to be creating a financial report. We're not going to be creating a financial report here for CVS. What we're going to be doing is creating a Power BI report. You can't create a Power BI report. You can't create the financial data information within a Power BI report. However, it does take a little bit more time. I probably will, I will go into building out a financial report for Power BI here in the very near future. But right now, is simply creating visualizations and a report based on what type of visualizations the client may need, or in this case, the client is a client such as CVS. Again, it's not 100% based on CVS right now, because the data that we're going to be using in the data visualization is not going to be actual data from a CVS database or data from the CVS database. The financial documents that we have here, these documents are coming from the actual annual report. It's from the Form 10K 2024. So these are actual numbers. I am not going to place the actual numbers into our Power BI report. Again, CVS is not paying me to create a Power BI report. See, I am not a client, or CVS is not my client. I am not consulting CVS in any way. I've never been employed by CVA. I've never been a client on a contractual basis, as far as I know, for CVS. So, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. But understanding that you can use the financial data to make certain evaluations as well, looking at the financial data to see, what type of services, what type of products the customer may be selling, maybe the customer may be selling or has for sale, and what value they're given when measuring how much revenue, profit, and expenses are being used for different line items. So, that's pretty much what that is. At the end of the day, this financial data is only for your research purposes only. What I will say is, what you can do when you get a client, when you get on the project and you don't know where to start, you can go and grab, if it's a publicly traded company, you can go grab that 10K or that 10Q, and then and then start building out your Power BI report based off of that 10K or that 10Q. Financial data is always good. But, I'm not going to say that you have to have it. You can have it on a project. You could even have the financial data as part of as part of the project. Well, let me back up. Let me say what I'm trying to say is typically if I was using financial data, I would probably want to build a complete a complete report based on financial data, right? And then have another report. If I'm going to do another report, have the other report built off of something else. For instance, you could have a project, you could be on a project to where your financial data, you could have your financial report built out, and then you could also have a report with KPIs based on products and KPIs based on services. And that's actually a pretty good example when we're looking at a company such as CVS, because we know that CVS provides products and they provide services. So we can actually build a report that shows the financial information, and then we can have another page that shows the product information using KPIs and data visualizations just on products. Then we can come right back on another report and we could say that we want to only show the services end of that particular company. Now, what you could also do when you have financial data and you have product data and you have service data, you could actually show an overview page that shows an overview of financial information and an overview of product information and an overview of services information. Then tie those pages into one another to where now the services information would drill into the next page of the report, which would be the services report, and the product information would drill into the next page, would be the product page of the report. So I just said a whole lot. I'm not going to beat up the annual report too much more because, again, we are not here to totally get into the financial aspect of this reporting. Our primary goal is Power BI. But again, with the understanding that what we're doing is fintech. Again, fintech, we've got financial data, we've got tech data, we've got financial business, we've got tech business. We bring those together and we have fintech, financial being the fin part and tech being the Power BI or the data part. So, with that said, I think we have covered a whole lot of information when it comes to the annual report. Again, the annual report is the 10K, the quarterly report is the 10Q. You actually could probably use either one of those to build out your Power BI report. If you find that if you use the 10K, you probably have to use the 10K from the previous year because the year's not over yet, so the 10K is not out there. For the quarterly reports, you could probably use any one of the quarterly reports that have already been completed. Given that, say you start working on a project in November, you're not going to have the annual report available, but you will have Q1, Q2, and Q3. Probably depending on when they submit the filing. I believe for major companies, for large cap companies, they have 40 days after the beginning of the quarter to submit their information. And I think smaller companies, maybe mid cap companies, have 45 days to submit their quarterly filings. Again, don't quote me on that. That's just information for you. That's just an extra tidbit of information. I'm giving you that information for free. I'm not totally sure. I know that that's somewhere around there, but at the end of the day, just understand you should have, if you're doing a project for a publicly traded company, the reporting, you should at minimum be, and you don't have anywhere else to start out with knowledge of what type of Power BI report you're going to build. You at minimum have the 10Q and the 10K. So we're gonna close this thing out in our last phase of research here, and of course, what's the easiest? I didn't say the easiest, but what's one of the, I guess, most common ways of doing research these days is what? Searching, right? I would say Google, but I'm not using Google. I'm using Yahoo Finance, right? I'm using Yahoo Finance, and I do think there is a Google Finance out there as well. I'm looking into that next, but. For this lesson, we're looking at Yahoo Finance, and basically what we are going to be doing is we are going to just be looking at the historical financial data, stock prediction with stock prices, option prices, and things like that. When it comes to, I'm getting a little echo. I'm gonna turn my volume down a little bit. Testing. Yep. Here we go. Right here. Here we go. So yeah, basically, we're looking at stock prices, not necessarily predictions, but what's the current stock price is what we're concerned with. Now, again, I am in no way being paid by CBS to talk stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or any other type of things with them. I am not in the business here of trying to sell you on buying CBS stock. That's not what we're here for. Basically, what we're here for, what we're using this information for, is simply research. We may include stock. Well, I think we did, and we included the stock price in our Power BI report. Some cases you may need it, some cases you may not, depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to the guys in finance, I'm sure that they would probably want to see, what the current stock price is. Not all the time, but what I say, not necessarily finance, an econ. If it's an econ type Power BI report, they may want to see some stock prices and things like that. When you're talking about finance, the finance department, the accounting department, they may not. Again, when you're creating a report and it has an overall appeal to the masses, being C-suite all the way down to those that are working in the cubes, you may have a wide variety of common visualizations on the initial page, being an overview page. So I'd like to come over to Yahoo Finance or finance.yahoo and just see how the company's doing, because when I'm creating a report, I like to know the company, and really, there's no, I'm not going to say no better way, but there's no better way of really understanding who a company is and what the company's really about than going over it and doing some research on their financial situation. Now, I'll be honest, typically, I will use Yahoo Finance to do a little bit of research, but I've got a couple of other paid platforms that I use to where I actually buy stocks and invest in investments and stuff like that. Given that it's a paid deal, I don't want to make it seem as if I'm trying to sell that service either. So I'm going to keep this thing simple. Everything that we're doing is free and accessible, from the annual report down to just being able to look at the information on Yahoo. So basically, what we're looking at here is option pricing. So if you're in the options, this is the option pricing. I don't think we will have any option pricing on the actual report, but the actual stock price we will. And as you can see, the current stock price as of let's see, I don't know what date I actually ran this original report, but it was $65.38 at the time. I think it's somewhere pretty close to that now. If I look at the more current, up to date, it's $65.75 at our current at the current time of this creating this video. So we're at this point, we're just only reviewing information about the company. Gross profit, operating income, cost of revenue, total revenue. Again, the financial data, we don't necessarily get too deep into creating financial data because even though this is what I consider to be a fintech type course, understanding the financials of a company, as well as bringing the financials of a company together with the technology of the company. Even though it is fintech, I don't want to get too deep into it because we are more tech than we are fin, or more tech than we are financial. But it's definitely important to understand both. And there can be situations where you are creating, and there probably will be situations where you're creating Power BI reports, and the data sets that you're going to be using are not going to always have financial data, right? And that's not going to always have financial data. I like to use financial data. One is because it gives Power of the BI a little bit more of a specialty when creating Power BI reports. And two, really when you're talking about data, the two things that really bring easy access to understanding numbers is, one is finance, and two is sports. And I do create some sports Power BI reports as well. You probably can flip through some of the videos that I have that are out there. In addition to, I will be creating some more Power BI reports for my class and in presentations like this, so that you will be able to grasp the concepts of Power BI and the concepts of data all at the same time, of understanding what that sports data really looks like and what that sports data really feels like. Let's see here. So at the end of the day, this is what we are. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. We're just researching the data from Yahoo Finance to understand the different prices of the stocks and options and stuff like that. We may use option pricing, we may not. I know we used the stock price of that current day that actually created this video. But outside of that, just another way for you to research. With that said, we are going to move over into the Power BI report and start building that thing out step by step, inch by inch, and really understanding what we're doing when we create that Power BI report. So now here we go. We are in the we're here. Now we're about to get into what we're here for, which is learning Power BI, understanding Power BI, or just understanding the Power BI report as it relates to financial data analysis, and data visualizations. Sorry about that. Guess I need to put this on pause. So with that said, let's just keep this thing moving. Let's get this thing moving and grooving and doing what we need to do. Old school again. Let me get up in me. Let me leave that alone. So here's the deal. We are going to get into the Power BI report. We are going to go from rooter to tutor, nut to grave, or cradle to grave, or whatever that's called, from beginning to end is what we're going to do. We're going to get into this Power BI report. So without further ado, let's just go ahead on and jump right over into the Power BI report. And we're going to go through this thing from the very beginning. Okay. Let's see here. So what we have here, we are currently looking at the data set. We're currently looking at the data set. Again, this data set is not actual data from CVS. This data is a data set that we created that models or replicates or simulates data that could be used for a Power BI report for the presentation of a company such as CVS. I mean, it could be CVS, or it could be one of CVS's competitors, or whomever. I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, because the type of data does matter. All data is not equal, because certain data means certain things to different organizations. But so we're here in the Power BI report view, and basically what we just did was we brought in a card visual. There's no one particular place to get started when building a Power BI report. You could start out with a table. Many times I like to start with a table. In this particular case, I started with a card. And what I'm looking at here is financial data, or actually it's economic data, because what we're looking at is the high of the stock price of that given day. Now, you're probably asking yourself, you're saying, hey, you know, the stock price is not 15.14 thousand, and you're absolutely correct. And I'll explain this to you here in a second. But what I'm doing now is that I am copying the original card, and I know that I'm going to use that card in several locations. Basically, I'm going to use that card in the open, the daily high, the daily close. I mean, the open, the daily high, the daily low, the close, the 7-day high, and the volume. What I mean by that is I want the cards to be pretty much the same size. So by just copying that card, I'm able to make sure that that card is going to be the exact same size, because I copied the card. What I also did was I created a 7-day high measure, which is going to allow us to calculate the high of the stock within the previous 7 days, right? So when we refresh this report, we're going to be able to see the current open, the current high, the current low, and I want to see what the 7-day high is based on the previous 7 days, or actually the previous 6 days plus the current day. So again, we have the cards that we are bringing in, and the cards initially are they're initially the calculation, or the high, the stock high, the stock low, and the 7-day high. I'm gonna copy it again because I know, again, as I said before, I also want to show the close. So I am going to need 6 of these card visuals in order to, well, not in order to do anything. I'm just gonna need 6 of these card visuals because of the visualizations that I want to show. So here we're looking at the volume. Now, there is no magic to creating the Power BI report. You know, it's no magic to how many visualizations we have on a page. Me personally, I tend to like to have no more than 10 visuals, being 4 small cards and 3 and then 6 big visuals. But really 10 is an absolute max that I would like to have in most cases. I think on this particular report, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, on this report, we're actually going to end up with 11 visuals on this report, because we're going to have the stock high, the stock low, the stock close, 7-day high, the volume. Then we're going to have a cluster column chart with a combo column line chart and a bar chart, along with a date slider. It's going to actually come out to look pretty decent, if you can remember, as we opened up this, as we began this video, you saw the final version of this report. But this is actually the actual building out of the report. So coming back over to the report view, now we are, analyzing the data again, and we see, as we analyze the data, we're actually looking at the actual stock table. So in this particular report, there's several different tables in this report, and the tables that we're looking at is stock history, customer adherence, generic drug dispensing rate, pharmacy, healthcare. We're not actually going to be looking at the pharmacy healthcare KPIs, because we're creating the KPIs, and we're going to be looking at prescription volume growth. So what I'm doing here is I'm bringing in a table, and the reason why I'm bringing in a table is, again, as I said before, I like to create my reports using tables, because the table kind of gives me the information that I'm looking for. So basically, as we saw over in the data view, basically what I just did here is I created a table very similar to the table that's used in the stock history. Just trying to get the cards lined up. I don't know which one of those you use, but trying to get the cards lined up so that we can create some space. As we know, when we're talking Power BI and reports, at the end of the day, we have to have real estate and basically space on the report page. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm just trying to get an idea of, how the cards are going to be lined up on the page as we build out this report. So go back over to the data view again. Now we're analyzing the data that we have in the table of the stock history report. And basically this table that we're looking at would basically be one of the tables within the database that we would bring into our report. So here, now we are going to, we're bringing in a second visual here at the bottom, a second, actually not a second visual, but an additional card. And at this point, all we're really doing now is just trying to create space, When I say create space, I mean, what is the real estate really going to look like on the page, right? So come back over to the data view and just analyzing the stock history table again. Of course, so as you can tell, we're spending a lot of time in the stock history table. The whole project is not going to be built out on stock history, but what we want to do is we kind of want to, this is kind of like an overview page. As I said before, early on, in an overview page, we may have some stock information, economic information. We may have some sales information. We may have some production information. We may have some management information. So what we're doing is we are at this point analyzing the stock data. And what I want to do is I want to be able to I want to be able to use each one of the fields, open, high, low, and close, as data that can be aggregated. But as we can see here, the open is actually not labeled as a whole number or as an integer, something that can be aggregated. It's labeled as text, and of course you can't add. Well, I don't like saying 10, but you're not able to add text like A plus B. A plus B does not equal C, and A plus B does not equal 1. So what I'm trying to do here is change the data type, and that's something that you will probably run into when you're creating a Power BI report. You may have a field where you believe it should be able to be aggregated, and what I mean by that is that you believe that field should be able to be summed, added, subtracted, multiplied, divided, changed to a percentage. But it just won't change. It's like, what's going on? And then when you come over and you look at, when you come over to the report view, over to the data view, and you look at it, and it says text, right? It says text. So at that point, you know that you've got to figure out how to change that from text to a value that can be aggregated. So we'll get that figured out. So right now, what we are doing is we're creating a measure, and what you'll find is we often create measures where we may not need it, but in the very beginning, we're thinking, I may need this measure, I think I'm gonna need this measure. I may need this measure. And in the very beginning, it's like, yeah, you may and you may not. But at the end of the day, you probably won't use it. In this particular case, the measure that I had in mind of using, I actually didn't even use that measure. So now we are, again, it's about real estate. And as I said before, these cards that we have set here, some of open, some of high, some of low, some of closed, 7-day high. Right, the most, like I said, the most important, but the thing that I'm mostly concerned about right now is the ability to show this data on this page and not for the page to seem too clunky, too cluttered. So that's why I keep changing sizes and formations and things like that. You'll see as we move through this report that sum of open and sum of high with those values of 14.94, 15.11, or 15.14, 14.75, 14.94, 67.09. 67.09 is probably going to be pretty close because that's actually a measure. But I'm going to show you why those numbers are what they are, and then we're going to make the changes later on. But again, we're coming back over to the data view, and what I want to do is change the format of the date, right? So currently the date has the date, the weekday, and then the date. As I'm looking in the table, I don't necessarily want to have year, quarter, month, day. All I want to show is the format that we pulled in, that we created, and that's going to be the 2-digit month, the two-digit month, the 2-digit day, and the 2-digit year. So now we've got that new format that we just changed over in the report view. So that's going to give us, it's going to give us the format that we desire from here on out in this report, unless we change that date format again. Now, as you can see, the sum of open, sum of high, sum of low, those numbers are different than the numbers that are in the card, sum of open, sum of high. So we've got 74 point and 14.94 thousand we have 14.94 thousand in sum of open, and we got 74.75 open for the open in the table. So here's the deal. The reason for that is what the card is doing currently. The card is adding all of the sums, adding all of the opens together. So the open from day one to the open at the last of that last open in the table is adding that entire table together. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the bottom of the table, it says total, and it's got 14.9 something, right? Or 14,009 something. So that's actually that total that you're looking at in the card, which is 14.94. If you look at the high, the sum of high in the card is 15.14. But if you look at the high in the table, it is saying at the total at the bottom is 15,140 something. So where I'm going with that is that the card right now is totaling the entire highs, the entire opens, the entire lows, and the entire closes. But we're going to go in a little later and we're going to change those to match, so that they will match the table. And that just goes to say that the default value, the default aggregation for that card is going to be for those cards is summing the cards. That's why it says sum of open, because it's summing the entire column of open, this entire column of high. But if we go in and we click average a little later, that's what we'll do. We'll click average. We'll highlight the card and then we'll click average instead of sum, or we'll change it from from sum to average. Then those numbers are going to match. So now again, what we're doing here is we are formatting the table so that we can have a little bit more real estate. It was a little too big. And as you can see, the stock history table in the data view is very similar now to the stock table that we've created in the Power BI report. So as you can see, again, the date field matches what we are trying to get accomplished, which is the 2-digit day, the 2-digit month, the 2-digit year. The high, let's see, what we're doing here is we are coming over and we are looking at each one of these titles. We're making the title smaller. Basically creating more real estate on the page so that we can have space to build out other visuals. So as you can tell, again, I talk about it all the time, but being a Power BI developer is very there's a lot of graphic design that comes into being a Power BI developer. There's a lot of data engineering that comes into being a Power BI developer. So, you know, we kind of have to mix those skills together, data and engineering and graphic design, in order to, you know, give the desired Power BI report feel and look that we're looking for. So we're analyzing the table again. We are going to select the up arrow, and we're going to change the direction of the lows to highs of the open column. We're going to change the up arrow, down arrow below date, and we see that the date reverses from the most recent date to the earliest date. Or if you select the arrow going back the other way, it'll go from first date to the most recent date. So in each one of the columns, if you click over into the columns, under the column heading, under the column header, you will see the arrow, and the arrow you'll be able to change the direction of how the data is listed in each one of the columns. Now what we're doing is we're just testing to make sure that the dates and the values, the date and the values in the tables actually line up. So as you see, we come over to the data view and we just filter just to that particular day, and we see now that the open, high, lows, and close all correspond to the same values. So this is just a way for you to check to make sure that your report is saying what it's supposed to say, and to check and make sure that your report is saying what you think it is saying. Checking against the volume. Looks like the volume is correct as well. So we're going to uncheck that single date, and we're going to select all again so that we can see all the dates. And we're going to come over to volume, and as we see here in volume, the numbers in volume are all jumbled together. So we're going to place a comma to give it a comma separator. So now we see that we've got comma separators in the volume column. Again, now we're looking at this spacing, we're looking at this real estate when it comes to these headers, because this could get kind of tricky when we're trying to build out the report and we just don't have enough space, or it doesn't look good. And the first thing somebody's gonna say is, that doesn't look good. You know, why is it so big? Why you got so much white space here, and why is it not anything covering here? So, you know, covering the entire page in the Power BI report is what we want to do. As you see here, you know, just trying to build out space is important. The size of the visual matters. The size of the values and the data within the visuals matter. So, you know, as we are going through and building out our columns and our tables and, you know, doing different aggregations and creating certain measures, we still have to make sure that the page layout itself looks the way that we think it should look in order for it to be presentable to our client, to our customer, to our manager, whomever you need to present this to. You want to make sure that it has that visual appeal as well as the accuracy of data within the report. So now, as you can see here, what I'm doing is initially we were looking at the sum of the entire column. Now we're coming in and we're selecting average, and by selecting average, that's actually giving us the actual value of the particular day. The reason why average works is because it's averaging the day. It's not averaging the entire column. Whereas in summing summed the entire column. So this gives us a more accurate representation of what the stock value actually is. And of course, that 7-day high is not something that we have to go back and select average for, because that's actually a measure that we created. Now we're doing something here. We're bringing in the calendar date slicer. I very seldom use the date slicer. Use the date slider, not the slicer, but the date slider. In this particular case, I did find that the slider was probably a better solution for the for the layout of this particular report. Normally, I don't even use the slider. Normally, I don't even like using the slider, but in this case, I did find it. I was like, yeah, the slicer actually is a better fit than, you know, doing a drop down month, day, year type of deal. Because you can still select whichever day you want to start with. You can select whichever day you want to end with. And if you want to select a particular day, you can just say, I want the first day and the second day and the first date and the last date to be the same date. And you'll just put in the same date, and that'll give you a specific day. So in this particular case, it did work out well using the date slider. So this is what we're doing in order to, you know, get this project, get this report kicked off initially, and, you know, starting from ground zero and building it from the rooter to the tutor, from cradle to grave, from 0 to 100. Let me stop. That's too much going on. Let me stop. So as we move on to the next section here in building out our Power BI report, we are looking here at, let's make this move just a little bit. Sorry, I think we started. There we go. Yeah, so we're looking at the current Power BI report as we have built out and been building this thing out. Again, as you know, I like to use the logos of the companies that we are building the reports for. And when you build a report, I'll suggest that you at minimum see if the company wants the logo included. Most oftentimes they do. They like to use the color schemes that are associated with their organizations. You can check with their marketing department and see if you can get a list of the different colors that they use, or acceptable colors that they use within their marketing literature. And I would use that exact same, those exact same color codes that they use within their marketing literature, because at the end of the day, this really is part of their marketing. Even though it's dealing more on the tech side, but I mean, you know, like I said before, it is kind of like a website for them. For the lack of any better term, I mean, if those guys that don't really know a whole lot about Power BI or data analytics or artificial intelligence, this really is just another website. When we publish this report, it really is nothing more than a website or a web page for these guys, for the average person that's looking at the report. So I would try to definitely keep the color codes that the company currently uses. Again, given that this is not an actual report for CVS, because again, I do not have a contract with CVS. I am not being sponsored by CVS. This is simply a project that I'm using to show you how to, one, create a Power BI report, two, how to research information in order to build a Power BI report, and to intermingle the two in order to show that fintech model within Power BI. So the colors that I will be using here are colors that I think coordinate well with the CVS logo and some of the colors that I have seen on their actual website. Definitely not the exact colors. It's not the exact color schemes, and not the exact color hex codes, because again, I have not spoken with anyone at CVS, and no one at CVS has suggested that I even do this. This is just something, again, that I am using to teach you to build a Power BI report. So what we're doing here is we are addressing our real estate issue. As I always speak about, the real estate, the size of the visualizations, they matter. As I told you before, I normally like to use no more than 10 visuals, and that's really a lot. But that's saying that if we have 6 medium-sized visuals and then 4 cards going across the top of the page or on the side of the page, and then the logo, all of those are visuals. The slicer, the slider, the calendar slider that we're using, that's a visual. So in this particular case, it looks like we are probably going to exceed that 10, or get close to that 10 visual, that 10 visualization count for the project, for the report. But that's okay. At the end of the day, we're gonna make this thing clean, and it's going to be to the point to where it's like, okay, cool, I can understand why you would want to use those visuals. And now, please understand that these visualizations that we're using for the cards and any other visualization that we create, these are only sample visuals. This is really only a sample report. So, you can think about, your company and, what your company would like to see, or the data that your company maintains, and you can substitute that data in for any of these cards. You don't have to have stock information. Again, I just like to use stocks, and I like to use sports, because both of those industries have a lot of financial data that people are able to identify with. So now we're getting a slightly cleaner look. Now we've made the visualizations of the average open, well, not necessarily the average, but the open, the high, the low, the close, and the 7-day high, along with the volume. We've made those visualizations smaller. We've made the logo a little smaller. We've made the calendar slider a little smaller. And now we've lined them up evenly with one another on the page. Now, by highlighting them all, then we go to the formatting option. We can group them, and we can also create distance between all, which would be formatting the distance to distribute each one horizontally, so that it'd be exact same amount of space in between each one of the visualizations. So that's kind of where we are now. Now, we can go on and move to the next level, or the next line of visualizations on this particular report, because I really do feel good now about the first line of visualizations. Again, with the logo, the open, the high, the lows, the close, the 7-day high, the volume. We can move on to another line beneath that particular beneath that particular report, beneath that group of visualizations. My apologies. Now we're over in the model view, and in the model view, what we do is we create a model of the tables. The reason why we're over here in the model view now is because we want to be able to, excuse me. Man, it's rough. So the reason why we come over to the model view is because we want to be able to make the visualizations interact with one another based on a similar characteristic. In our particular case, that similar characteristic that we're probably going to be trying, excuse me, that we're going to be trying to use is going to be a date. The similar characteristic is going to be by date. So what I mean by that is we want to be able to select a date, or we want to be able to select a day or a date, and all the interactions begin to all of the tables begin to interact. In this particular case, we are only looking at the stock data. So everything within this data here that we're seeing is the table, the cards, everything is all dealing with the stock. So anything that we change here is going to change. It's going to have it's not just going to be interaction because, it's all within the same table, but we want the tables but we have several other tables within this report, and we want these tables to be able to interact with one another. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a date table, a calendar table. We're going to create a calendar table so that when we select the date from this calendar table, it's going to interact with all of the other tables. Again, the initial report that we have so far, or the initial visualizations that we have so far, are only associated with the stock history, stock table, whatever it's called, but it's only one table that's associated. But in order for all of these guys to be able to interact, we have to create a calendar table. The reason for that is this. Let's say that we have a calendar. Let's say that we have a table with stocks in it, and there's a date. So we select the date, and then we can see what the high, the low, and the volume, the high, the low, and the close is for a particular stock on a particular day. Well, let's say we have, let's just say we have a sale. Let's say we have products, and we're selling products on a certain day. Well, so we have a calendar, not a calendar, we have a table that has nothing but products, and in those products have a date, has a date field, the name of the product, what was sold, maybe even profit, whatever expenses for that particular product, whatever the case may be. And we select the date within that table. Then we're able to see all the different transactions for that product by date. Let's say we have another table that is labeled, another table that is services. Well, in the services table, we have all the list of services, and we have the dates associated with those services and the cost of those services. So if we select a date, the date, then we can see all the services that were provided on that particular day, and we can see the costs and the expenses of those services that were provided. Now, that's to say at this point, we have three tables. We have a stock table, and the stock table has a date. We have a product table, and the product table has a date. We have a service table, and the service table has a date. But each one of the dates in each one of those tables only correspond to that particular table. So if you select the date in the services table, it's not going to interact with the date in the products table. And if you select a date in the products table, it's not going to correspond with the dates in the stock table. So what we're doing is we are creating a table. We're creating a calendar table, and we are going to build a relationship or create a relationship between from the calendar table to the date table, the calendar table to the product table, the calendar table to the service table. Now, those are not the actual tables that are in this particular report. In this particular report, we've got a stock table. We've got a table that is customer adherence table. We've got a generic drug dispensing rate table, and we have a prescription volume growth table. And each one of those tables have a date. So our calendar table, when we finish building the calendar model, when we finish building the calendar table, we are going to create a relationship between the calendar table and the customer adherence table, the calendar table and the pharmacy healthcare, the customer adherence table, the generic drug dispensing rate table, and the prescription volume growth table. So that then when we select a date, that date is going to be associated with the calendar table, and then everything that's associated with that date is going to interact with all the other dates and all the other tables. So as we are creating this calendar table, the calendar table can be pretty tricky. It's something you have to do. Not something you have to do, but there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to creating a calendar table. So when creating a calendar table, the first thing we have to do is create the initial table. And the initial table is what we call calendar auto. And in calendar auto, what we do is by creating calendar auto, what happens is that it creates a basic table that automatically reads all the dates in the current report, no matter where the dates are in the report. For instance, those dates that are in the customer adherence table, the generic drug dispensing rate table, and the prescription volume growth table. Each one of those tables have dates associated with it within each one of those tables. But when we create the calendar table, we say calendar auto. And what calendar auto allows us to do is it takes the first date from whichever one of those tables has the earliest date, and whichever one of those tables has the latest date. It creates a calendar of that first date and that last date. So then that one calendar table is created based off of the first date that's in the report and the last date that's in the report, and then it creates the dates all in between those first and last dates. So that's what we're doing here when we created calendar auto. Then we came back in, we come back in and we've got to format we've got to format the table. We got to format the calendar table. And what I mean by formatting the calendar table is initially we're going to get the date. We're going to get the date of those tables. The date ranges. The date range between that first and last date. We're going to get every day in between there to be our calendar. To be our calendar date range. But what we also want to do is we want to create, not necessarily have to, we don't necessarily have to, but what is most common is to format the year. So you have a column for the year. So we'll have a column for the date that'll give us our date, whatever that format is, whether it be a one digit day, a one digit month, a one digit day, a 4-digit year, and then 6-digit time. We can take the time out, we can keep the time in, we can make it a 2-digit month, a 2-digit day, and a 4-digit year, or a 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and a 2-digit year. Whatever the case may be, we can format that date, we can give that date format. Then we also may say, hey, we may have a visual where we want to select by year rather than by a date. right? So by formatting year, we go in, we create the year, and then we format the current date so that it'll show, so that column will just show the year. Then we may want to format the month number. We may want to format the month number. So we want to format the month number. You know, of course, January is 1, June is 6, May, which is my birthday month, is 5, December is 12. So we want to say, hey, show me the month number for each. Give me a column for just the month number. Give me a column just the month number. So that's one other item that we're going to create for this particular visual for this particular calendar in this report. And then the last format that we're going to do in this report is we are going to show the month name. We're going to show the month name. So basically, we're going to have a calendar. It's going to have the date. So let's just say the first date is January 1, 2024, 12 o'clock a.m. That's one column. And then we're going to have another date. We're going to have another column that says year. And because the year for that date column is 2024, the year column is going to be indicated by 2024. Then we're going to show the month number. Since we're in January, that month number is going to be 1. If we were in February, that month number would be 2. Then we're going to create a column that shows the month, and the month that's going to be the month name. So if we're in January, it's going to say January. If we're in February, it's going to say February. If we're in March, it's going to say March. So that's going to be those 4 columns. That's not the only formatting that we can create when we build a Power BI report or build a calendar table within a Power BI report. There are several other formatting options that we can use as well. We could create quarter. We could create the short name for the month being January would be JAN, December would be DEC. May, of course, would be MAY, and April would be APR. So that's what that would look like if we were creating a column there. So of course we could have the quarter number, which would be quarters 1 through 4, and it would automatically determine what those quarters are, and then we would have we could do short month name. Now, what we're looking at here is we've created the calendar table, and now we're coming back over to the model view. And what I like to do is I like to whatever is going to be my main table that is going to be it's going to have a relationship with all the other tables, or the majority of the other tables. I like to put that table in the middle of all the other tables. The reason why I like to do that is because we like to say we build Power BI and the data model on the star schema. So I like to kind of really build a star when I'm creating my Power BI report, so that I know that my eyes are going to focus in that model. My eyes are going to focus straight to the middle of what's going on, and then I can see that, hey, that is the main table, and it's the center of the star schema. Everybody does not do that. Some people, well, I can't even say some people do. I think I may be the only person I know that do that. That does do that. I don't know, but I am the only person that I do know that does that. But that's just me. I just like to say, this is the center of my star, the center of the star schema. So what I'm doing now is I'm just creating the visualizations so that they are all the same size or close to the same size. So that they're close to the same size. And, we're getting that aesthetic thing. I'm kind of OCD about that when it comes to the visualizations, whether it be for the models or whether it be for the data visualizations. I, kind of want everything to be, almost perfect or as perfect as possible. So I'm just lining the the tables up and just making them the same height and width. And of course, my measures table is I'm not necessarily worried about my measures table because there's no relationship that's really needed between with the measures table, because the measures table is simply a table that has all my measures in it. It's not a table that's going to have anything built on relationships. So now I've got my calendar table that we just created. I put it in the center of the start. I put it in the center of all the tables, which I'm calling the center of my star schema. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to create a relationship between my calendar table and all my other tables. And everything is related based on the calendar table. Everything is based on date. So I took my date table and I connected it to the stock table, my date table to my generic drug dispensing, because there's the dates. And what I'm saying is there's a date column in each one of these tables. So now I am building a relationship from my calendar table to all of the tables within this particular report, so that when I select my slider, now my slider, I don't remember what table I'm using the slider for currently, but what I'm going to have to do is replace the date in my calendar slider so that it is coming from my calendar date, my calendar table date, so that all of the other tables would interact when there are changes within the visualizations based on date. Come back over to the report, and now what I want to do is, let's see, what are we doing? We are going to let's go back over to the model view. Not the model view, the data view. Let's analyze the data just a little bit more. We're back over in our calendar table. This is actually the table that we just created. And let's see here. Everything should be ready to interact based on creating this calendar table. So as we continue to move through creating our Power BI project here, let me move back over to the actual screen so that we can keep going. Let's see here. I don't think I hit start. Let's press play. Bam. There we go. No, that wasn't it. Press play. There we go. So we are continuing to build out our real estate here on the project. And I keep using the term real estate. Real estate really is not a term that is used in Power BI, but you'll hear me use real estate quite often. And basically real estate, again, is just a matter of creating the spacing for the layouts of the visuals to make sure that we have with the visualization, so that we would have a pretty good presentation here. So what I'm doing now is I am bringing in the visuals that I want to use. We've already brought in our initial top visuals, where the first line visuals, where we are looking at the open, the high, the low, the close, the 7-day high, and the volume. And again, pretty self-explanatory. The open is what the stock opened at. The high is what the highest was for the day. The low is what the lowest was for the day. And the average, the close, the close is what it closed at the end of the day. Then the 7-day high is the only value that was brought in that actually had to be calculated. And again, remember, that was a measure that we created that shows the high for the 7 days. Now again, that is going to change every day. So tomorrow is going to be for the last 6 days plus today. For the next day, it's going to be the previous 6 days plus the day, plus the current day. So that is what the 7-day high is actually calculated as. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going back and I am now looking at bringing in data from a different table. The table that we were using previously, as we were speaking, was from the current stock table. And when I say current stock, that's just the name that I gave the stock table, or the table that all the stock values were in. Now I am bringing in a separate, not a separate table, but a different table. And this particular table is called, I'll give you the exact name that I used. This actual table here is called prescription volume growth. There's no magic to it. It's just what I call the table, but it's based on the prescription volumes. And again, this particular table has a date. It has prescriptions filled, previous period prescriptions, and prescription volume growth. And again, the primary key, or the field that is going to dictate how the interactions are shown in this project, in this Power BI report, is the date field. As you remember, we created a model. In the model, we also created a calendar table, and in the model we linked all of our dates, or we created relationships between all of our dates in all of the tables to the actual date column in the calendar table. And that is the primary reason why we did that, was so that we could have interactions showing as we make changes within the Power BI report. Otherwise, if we didn't have a relationship between all the tables, if we selected a volume, or if we selected something within the report, it would only show the value that is being interacted within that particular report. But given that we have a calendar table and we have relationships between each one of those fields, that is allowing us to have interactions between all of the tables. So again, we have our prescription volume growth table, and in the prescription volume growth, in that table is the date, the prescriptions filled, the previous period prescriptions, and the prescription volume growth. We're going to go back over to the report. So what we're doing is we're just trying to make sure that we have the actual, that we've done proper analysis of each one of the tables. And in this particular table, we're talking about the prescription volume growth table. So what we're doing now is we're coming in and we are changing the name. We're giving it a more common name rather than sum of. Now we're using a better name here for our text in our text field. So we're using field versus previous period prescription. Just giving a better title to this visualization is all we're really doing here at this point. There's nothing to do anything with, well, at this point, we're not doing anything with real estate or anything like that, because titles matter. Titles matter. When you look at a title, you want to be able to look at the title and understand what you're looking at based on the title, and not have to try to decipher as, what does this title really mean? What are they really trying to say within this title? So it's not necessarily tricky, but it's just a matter of trying to really understand what we want this title to say. So now we are going to, now we're going to look at some real estate. Do we have our spacing, our layout per the real estate. It's looking pretty good here now. We're looking pretty good. Now it's a matter of coming back over to the report view, doing some quick analysis, and seeing that the names that we have, comparing the names that we made the changes to the names that we have in the actual report. Do we want to change anything about the years? Do we want to change this to quarters? Do we want to change this to months? If we come over and go to visuals, go to legend, what do we want to do here? What do we want to show in the legends? What do we want this legend to say? We go to text, we go to title. What do we want this legend to say? Do we want the legend on? Do we even want to show the legend? That's a good question. Let's go back over to the report view, the data view. We come back. We can take that sum of out. And we can come down here and we can take the sum out of period versus prescription. Let's see here. So what I accidentally did was I double clicked down here in the corner, and it was giving me a visual that I really wasn't trying to have. So I'm going to take that visual out. That was simply a mistake. And again, if you double click into a clear space, AI will pretty much give you a choice of either asking a question or adding a particular visual. In that particular case, we didn't really want that visual to be there, so we just removed that visual. Back over in the data view, we see we have previous period prescription, previous volume, not previous, but prescription, volume growth. Come back over to the data view. Come back over to the report view, and we're just going back and forth trying to figure out, trying to make sure we have what we're looking for off of that particular table. So now I am going to see what other information do I want to keep. Do I actually want to keep this stock history table? Let's decrease the size for real estate sake. Let's bring in a pie chart. And what do we want to bring in? What do we want to use for the data in the pie chart? Let's see. Prescription drugs, generic drugs. So we're using a totally different table for the pie chart. For the pie chart, we're using another table called generic drug dispensing rate. Generic drug dispensing rate. So in the column chart, we use the table prescription volume growth, and then in the stock chart, or in the table, we use the stock. We use the current stock price, current stock table. Now we are using, for the pie chart, the general drug dispensing rate. And the reason for that is we don't want to use the same information. We don't want to see the same information in every visualization. So basically, we are creating visualizations showing different information. Now, when we go up to the first line and we look again at the stock information, that information did come from the stock table. Again, with average with the open, the high, the low, the close, 7-day high, and the volume. Then we come down and we have the table that's showing the exact same information. It is not good. It's not good practice to have several visuals that show the same thing, or multiple visuals that show the same thing. So eventually, either we need to take out the top data, that top row here that we're looking at, or we need to replace the table, the stock table, with something else. Now, I like using tables to create the initial visualization, to start building out the real estate, but doesn't mean that the table has to stay there. So again, we're over here in the report view. We're looking at the data from the generic drug dispensing rate. And the data in the generic drug dispensing rate shows a table that has date, generic prescriptions, total prescriptions, and generic drug dispensing rate. So with that said, again, we created the calendar table, and we built a relationship, or created a relationship between the date in the calendar table and all of the dates and the dates in all of the other tables. That is what is going to make our report be able to have interactions between all of the visuals. That is the link. So now as we come up and we go back to the data view, and we are looking to see what that data is in the table, comparing the data in the table to what we're actually seeing in the bar chart that we're using for the generic drug dispensing rate bar chart. We're going to compare the dates. We see we have interactions between the visuals. And those interactions, again, is simply because of the date that is linked in the calendar table that's linked to the generic drug dispensing table. Now we're getting interactions because what we did was we changed the date from just a regular date to the actual dates, from the dates of one table to the dates in the calendar table, where all of the dates are related to via the calendar table. So now we're getting interaction between all of the tables because of the links. What we're doing here is we're looking at real estate. How does this thing really look? Do we have enough spacing? Do we want to make it stretch it out vertically and then move the other visualizations around, or do we want to move the other visualizations around and see what happens here? What I'm doing now is bringing the pie chart over on top of the bar chart, just getting some idea of what looks better, the pie chart on top, or on top of the table, or the pie chart on top of the bar. Now we're really dealing with aesthetics at this point. Again, as I always say, being a Power BI report developer, it is some data engineering, it's some graphic design. At the end of your project is where you spend most of your graphic design. I'm going to say probably 85% of your project. Well, I'm going to say probably 15% of your project is going to be research. It's going to be analyzing the data that you have in the data sets. It's going to be going into the database and understanding where the data is in the database and what data, you're probably, and then determining what data you want to use. And that's going to be part of your research. So 10% of your time is going to be researching your data. 10% of your time is going to be making sure you have access to the data. I guess I should say that 10% of your time is going to be allocated to making sure you have access to the data that you're looking for, and then 10% of the time is going to go to understanding the data in your data sets, in your database, and determining what that data is, research-wise, determining what that data is that you're going to be using. And then I would say probably 10% of your time is going to be on the graphic design end at the end, trying to make sure that your real estate is, your page real estate is where it needs to be, how it needs to look, what's going to give you the best feel and the best effect visually from your building out that of your report. Then the 70% of your time is the Power BI report. Building the Power BI report, the measures, the data modeling, making sure the data engineering piece is working. When I say the data engineering piece is working, making sure that the data that you've reviewed inside of the data set, that what type of calculations you're going to be needing. We're not doing a whole lot of calculations here as we build out this report. The only calculation that I really did on this report is building the measure for the 7-day high. But when you get ready to build out your Power BI report, you're probably going to have a lot more measures than just one measure. It's probably going to be several measures, and there are reasons why I could have used building out the measures. As you see, when I do different, move the calendar slider, when I move the calendar slider around, at certain points it may say the volumes, and not the volumes, but the open, the high, the low, the close, and the volume could be blank. And that's why, the reason why is because I use the standard values from that current table. And if the dates are off from the values, if the dates are off from when the values are possible, then it's just going to show blank, because there's no possible way for it to have what it's, because there's no value or value for that particular date range. But what I could have did was I could have created a measure for the open, created a measure for the high, created a measure for the low, created a measure for the close, and created a measure for the volume. Then I could have said +0, and then what that would have done was if the date calendar was to move based on a date that is not relative at that time, or value available at that time, it would show 0 as opposed to showing blank. So there is a way to get around the blank, but for time's sake, I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time building out a whole lot of measures, because this is not necessarily a video on building measures. It's a measure on building Power BI reports. So that's kind of why you saw the blank values there, and you also saw what was going on when the date slider was being moved. So now we're dealing with real estate. We're trying to get an idea of real estate. We're trying to get an idea of aesthetics at this point. Looking at the pie chart, trying to determine, what's going to be the best titles, the best formatting for the pie chart. Again, this is dealing with formatting, and it's also dealing with real estate, not just real estate of the report, but real estate of the visual, because we want to, maximize the real estate on the visual, and at the same time, sorry about that. We want to maximize the space on the report, as well as maximize the space on the visual. And maximizing the space on the visual means not using the default titles and the default text that's used for the legends and used for the titles. We want to minimize the text as much as possible, because the visual itself is much smaller than the report. So we want to maximize the spacing in the visual. So the question that was used here on the pie chart was, what's the best location for the legend? Should the legend be to the right? Should the legend be to the left? For the title, do we want to use the sum of, or do we want to use just generic drug? We want to get as much out of the spacing as we possibly can. Just looking, analyzing the data here on the pie chart. So now, as you could tell, we spent some time on the pie chart. We're gonna spend a little time on the column chart. We're gonna spend a little time on the bar chart. We're gonna spend a little time on the table. We're just trying to make sure now that we have what we need when it comes to the actual visualization. The spatial arrangements look pretty good. We could widen out a couple of visuals here. There's a lot of space here in this table that's unused right here to the right that I'm really not excited about. I kind of want to make that spacing go away a little bit. I could increase the text, or what I could do is I could make that visual smaller and then stretch out the bar chart, because we know that the bar is going to spread out horizontally. So several different ways that we can make the visualization on the spacing for the table have a more desirable aesthetic appearance. Yeah, we can spread this spacing out. This is really bothering me now. And actually, with it being the table having the same information up top as it has down bottom, you know, my question now is, do we start moving this to a different visual and looking at a different table, or keeping the table visual, and then moving to a different table. I mean, having a different table to analyze the data from. So let's see here. The bar chart looks good. The pie chart looks good. In the bar, we're gonna add, let's see. So in the bar, we are now looking at customer adherence rate, drug dispensing rate, and prescription volume growth. Formatting the x-axis, formatting the titles on the x-axis. Again, we got that generic, that default title, which gave us sum of. We're just taking sum of out, and now giving it a better title. So now we're building out here the spacing, the real estate for the bar chart. Want to make sure that the bar chart and the pie chart have the same width, just for spatial arrangement. Again, now we're dealing with our graphic design in to where, you know, we want the graphics to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible. Our column chart the same width as our table, our bar chart the same height as our table, and our pie chart the same width as our bar chart. just dealing with formatting, What do we want? What do we really want here in the pie chart? Generic drug, generic prescription, generic drug dispensing rate, generic prescriptions. We come back over to the data view and checking out the data again that is in the generic drug dispensing rate table. And we see we have the date, the generic prescriptions, total prescriptions, generic drug dispensing rate. Again, we want to make sure that we understand that date column, that date field in the generic drug dispensing rate table is what has the relationship tied to the calendar table, which allows us to make changes in the date and the interactions, all the interactions on the table that are associated with that calendar table is what is going to make the entire table interactive. So now we see that what we are looking at playing with is potentially changing the visualization for that particular table. Generic drug dispensing rate and inherent sum of drug prescriptions by. So we're playing with the tables now just to see, what visualization is going to look better not necessarily playing with the table, but playing with the visualizations to see what tables are going to look better in certain locations. Let's see. Don't really like all of these lines. The visualization that we are playing with is the stacked area chart. And what stacked area means is it's you're stacking multiple values on top of one another, and then you're shading in the bottom of each area so that you can tell, what you're measuring. And in this particular case, we're really kind of struggling a little bit trying to give the most desired look and feel for the report. So now we are moving into formatting, creating color schemes, and formatting for the overall Power BI report. We've created the visualizations that we want to use. We've created the desired real estate that we're going to use. Now we're going to do some formatting. What I did was I went over into PowerPoint. I created a little background image, saved it as a SVG file, and now I'm going to use that file as the background image to this Power BI report. It's going to give us a little flair, a little to what we do. I don't oftentimes use a background image. Most of the time I'll use the defaults from Power BI, the different color schemes, the different color backgrounds from Power BI. But in this particular case, I wanted to do something different. So I created the background, and I just use a red gradient type format, as you can see in the background now. And I tried to match it to the CVS logo. Again, this is not a CVS official project. This is not a CVS project at all. This is just a Power BI report that I am using to create a report to show you how to create Power BI reports, show you the desired effects and visualization types of Power BI reports. So the exact color of the background to match the exact color of the logo is not there, because that's not any type of conversations that I had with the teams from CVS, and I just want to be very clear. that I am not here trying to sell CVS as a company, as a stock, as any type of company to invest in. This is simply a project that I created just so that you can get an idea of how to create a Power BI report with a company KPI that makes sense to something that you've probably already seen before. So what I'm doing here is I've gone in and I have made the background colors the same colors or similar colors to the background that I brought in for the page. I made the background for the visualizations the same color. As you can see, this could work. It could be too much. When we look at, how much red we have all in one spot, it could be too much. We don't have any outline. We don't have any trim. We don't have any white space, anything separating the colors when it comes to the report itself, except, right up in the middle of the report, you see, now I don't know why I jumped over here to my YouTube page. I'm sure you've seen my YouTube page before because you're already here on my YouTube page. Excuse me. In the upper left-hand corner of the visualization at the bottom right, in the upper right-hand corner of the visualization in the bottom left, you can see the little space that is white space in between both visualizations, and then there is no white space. Given that the bottom segments are over the red background of the page background, that's why you don't see any white space. But what I want to do is I want to kind of try to make this thing have just a little bit more curb appeal when looking at the visualization. So I'm just trying to figure out what we need to do here. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to go over to ChatGPT, and I'm going to use ChatGPT. I'm going to ask it, for colors to use on this Power BI report that coordinates well with the color red. I don't have the exact color red that's in the logo, but I do have a basic color red. So I'm going to ask it for 6, 7, maybe 8 colors to coordinate with in order to put the colors within this Power BI report. The first color you can see that I came back with, is shown here in the donut chart as I'm formatting the donut chart with this gold color. Not exactly sure what the exact color is, but it's this gold color using this particular hex. Then I come back with this teal color for the next piece of the donut chart. Again, I don't know if this is really teal, but if that's what it's called, but this is the hex that I used. Then I am coming back for the next segment of this donut chart, and I am placing this hex color in, and it's a gray hex. I believe it's probably closer than anything else I called out when it comes to the teal and the gold. I believe that this is gray. And now in this particular segment of the donut chart, it gives me the white hex, and this does not work well on the white background. If it was a different color background, it would probably be okay. But on a white background, using a white segment color is not good because it looks like there's a gap in the donut. So I'm going to change that color, and I'm going to use another one of the colors that I was given. And this color actually came out black, which I don't like using black in general presentations unless the company's colors has accents of black, the logo is black, there is some black in there. So I'm going to choose another color that I was given, and this one is more of the orange type color. So we have the orange, the gold, the I don't know, is that a teal, like a teal blue, a brown, a gray. I really don't like that brown, so I'm going to go with a different shade of the blue, which is going to be more of an aqua blue, I guess. Because I like that lighter feel. That brown and that black gives me kind of like don't necessarily want to go with that. So I used 2, 3, 4. I used 5 colors that was given to me out of the 8 in the donut chart. Now I want to use probably 2 out of those colors that I use in the donut chart. I want to use on the column chart. The reason why I say those colors is because I want to stay consistent with the colors that I'm using. Even though I have 3 other colors that I was given, I want to stay consistent with the colors that I was already given to make sure that the chart keeps the same aesthetic appeal and the visual appearance. So I decided to go with the aqua type blue and the orange, maybe magenta, I guess that would be, type colors for the column chart. So now we are consistent, at least on the mid row, with the visuals that are being used. So I'm going to come down to the bottom row and going into the bar chart. And on the bar chart, I am going to use 3 colors. So those 3 colors, I believe I should use, should be very similar to the at minimum 3 colors from the donut chart. I don't know about everybody else, but my allergies, it is allergy season, my friend. It is allergy season. So what I'm doing now is going into the bar chart, and I want to format the colors of the bar chart so that we're consistent in the visualizations. So I'm going to go down to effects, go down to I want to go to background. I want to go to let's highlight the bar chart format, and we're going to go to general. We're going to go to effects, not necessarily effects, visual border. We're going to turn the border off because turn the border back on. I'm going to give it, we're going to look at the border. We're going to turn the visual border on, and we gave the corner of the border a curve. So we're going to turn the border on for the second, which would be the column chart, and we're going to give a 5 pixel curve or 5 pixel corner, however you want to call it, in our column chart and in our bar chart. We got rounded corners. Rather than doing 5, we're going to do 10 to get more of a rounded effect. And then we're going to create just a little bit of spacing in between the column chart and the bar, the column line combo. We're going to separate that a little bit from the bar just to get a little bit of space. And that actually looks a lot better than having both of those guys there together. We got the visual borders on. So, that's giving us more of an effect to where we're able to separate the background, the default background from, it's not necessarily the default background, the background that we brought in with the gradient red at the bottom is giving us more of a distinct feel away from the away from the combo column line and the bar chart. Now we're just getting some spacing, getting a better look and feel of real estate on the Power BI report itself. So we've got a little space in between both visuals here, between the column line chart combo and the bar chart, coming up to the clustered column chart. Just trying to check out spacing, see if the outer right is lined up with the outer right of the bar chart and the outer left of the clustered column is lined up with the outer left of the bar. Also, while seeing if the outer of the top of the clustered column is aligned with the top of the donut chart. On the donut, just trying to format the height and format the donut of the height to make it equivalent with the height of the clustered column. Just trying to make sure everything is the same size, or at least close as possible. A lot of times it's not going to be exact because we may need one visual to be slightly bigger, but for the most part, we're trying to make sure we're trying to get as close as possible right now to where the clustered column is the same height as the clustered donut. Over to format, and now we're going to look at the combo of the line clustered column chart. We want to make the color schemes for the lines on the clustered column to match the lines that we're using to be consistent throughout the report, and just kind of testing to see if we want to use a gray background, we want to keep it the red background, if we want to change the column colors, which we definitely probably want to change the column colors because that royal blue was not, or that navy blue or whatever color blue that was, does not match, but match the consistency of the colors. But now changing the column in the line combo column chart to match the gold color in the donut chart gives us a little consistency. Coming over gives us more consistency. Coming over to the bar chart, and we will definitely want to change the colors in the bar chart to be consistent with the colors in the donut chart. So we're just going to select one of those colors that's in the donut for one of the elements, and we're going to select one of the colors in the donut for the next element. I don't know why they keep trying to sell me these antivirus protection. I guess I probably need to read these directions or read what's going on here. I may be missing out on something that I probably should be upgrading, installing, or whatever the case may be, but that's not what I'm going to do right now. And we are changing the colors to match all the bar chart colors to match colors that are used in the Power BI, in the donut chart. Let's see. So we're pretty consistent here as far as with the colors. Let's see. Do we need to change anything else? We've got white. We've got gold. We've got the teal. We're gonna come back over to the column, and that line is throwing me off. The line in the cluster column, line combo, just throwing me off. Let's see, the title, just changing the colors and the formatting of the titles and of the legends, of the text in general. Let's see. The y-axis, the values, the color, change the values of the color in the y-axis. Let's see. I know I need to change the color of that line, but what else is throwing me off? Let's see. Let's see. Can't really tell. Okay, that line is throwing me off. I don't know what I want to do with that line. Let's see here. Highlight the column line chart. I'm going to come down to change that black to white. Come down, I'm gonna change that black to white. Let's see. That gray, that's grayed out. Let's see if we turn that black to white. So all of the black text we're trying to turn to white. We're trying to change it to white because it's kind of hard to read on that red background. Let's see here. We're just trying to find the different colors that we may need to change to a lighter color, to white. That's all we're trying to do right now, is just formatting the text, trying to make all of the text white. Let's see. And as you can tell, we're still highlighted, or we're still highlighted over the column line combo chart. That's letting us know, this blue, there it is. That line was bothering me. That blue color was that royal blue color was the color of the line. We changed that line to white. I feel pretty good about this one now. I feel pretty good. Let's see. Do we have anything else that we need to Scrolling down, I don't see anything else that needs to change. Values on, values off. Yeah, that could go either way. Values on, values off. Not a real big deal. So that's pretty much is what formatting is looking like when we are building out our Power BI report here. We've got pretty good formatting now. It's really turned into aesthetically pleasing report. The real estate is symmetrical, where we have the donut and the bar and the bar line, the clustered column and the bar chart. All of those are pretty symmetrical. We've got the stock opening closes and stock information up top, the logo and the calendar date. Everything is pretty much coming into play now. Now it's just a matter of just finishing up. It's just a matter of finishing up formatting. There's some basic formatting deals, formatting, not necessarily issues, but just making sure that the formatting is looking pretty good. So now it's just a matter of just closing this bad puppy out, trying to get it where we want to have it. So we are coming to, not necessarily I'm going to call it conclusion, but we're coming to a pretty close finished product. Anytime we have a finished product, we can pretty much count on, or anytime we think we're close to the end of a product or a Power BI report, you can be rest assured that your client, your owner, your customer, whoever it may be, is going to come up with something else that needs to be done, or have some type of suggestion as to what else can it do. Now, so here's the thing. More often than not, the customer does not know exactly what Power BI can do. So when you put your Power BI report together, you're going to get a wow factor. That's almost guaranteed. If you do it right, you're going to get a wow factor. And then they're going to ask you if it can actually do this, or if it can actually do something else. Typically, that answer is going to be that answer is going to be probably so, but not really. Or it's going to be, yeah, it probably can. I mean, it just depends on what they're asking for. So what we have here in this particular report, as you already know, we've got stock information, which is overview information as to what is needed or could be used on the report. This stock information is coming from what we call the current stock table. And we have several other tables that we actually used as well. And those other tables are the generic drug dispensing rate table, the pharmacy, we didn't use the pharmacy healthcare KPI table. That's just a table that I currently have, but I'm not using it. And the prescription volume growth. Again, it's the stock history table, the customer adherence rate table, the generic drug dispensing rate table, and the prescription volume growth table. Then we went over and we also built out a model, and that model, well, we built the calendar table initially. So we built the calendar table, and in that calendar table had a date column, and the date column is what is all the relationships to the other tables have in common. So that date table was built in the star schema, and then we built the relationships. We built the relationships to each one of those other tables, which allowed us to create a calendar slider such as the one that we have up in the top right corner. So we have a calendar slider, and that calendar slider allows us to change the date. And as we change the date, the calendar slider is based on the calendar table that we created using the date column. And it allows us to make changes to the date so that the interactions between each one of the visuals will change by date. That was the reason why we created the calendar date table, and used the calendar slider. As we can see here, we're now, pretty much we're just formatting the finished product. We're formatting the finished product. And we're not going to get to the end of all the formatting that can happen. I mean, we could actually add some shadows, some drop shadows, thicken the borders, slim in the borders, pop some visuals out, leave some visuals in, as far as shadows out, shadows in, shadows out. Background colors, we can change the background colors to these cards so that they're not the default white color. But at this point, we're just trying to get to the point of a solid presentation, a solid Power BI report, so that when you present this report to whomever you're presenting to, you're saying, hey, this is where we are. Now, with that said, again, the customer is going to have questions. The customer is going to want to add some things. The customer is going to want to know, can the Power BI can Power BI do this as well? Most of the time, Power BI can do what the customer is asking. It's just a matter of building out measures for the visuals, building out custom measures, custom calculations. But there are some things that Power BI is not able to do. I encourage you to go over to the YouTube for that Microsoft puts out for Power BI updates. I believe they actually changed it into Fabric updates now. Maybe, I don't know, but the Power BI updates. I would say go back to the very first Power BI update. I do that seldomly. Not seldomly. I do that. I do that at least once a year, maybe twice a year. I'll go back and I'll start with the very first Power BI update, and I'll watch all the Power BI updates all the way through, because I like to see where Power BI has come from to where Power BI is now, right? A lot of things that's going on now with Power BI is more so coming from Fabric, but at the end of the day, Power BI is Power BI. Whether you are bringing the data in from Fabric, bringing the data in to Power BI from Fabric, or you're bringing the data in from another database, it doesn't matter. So what are we doing here? We're just testing the calendar slider. We're looking at the interactions between the different visuals. As you can see, as the calendar is the calendar date ranges are changing. You're seeing the visualizations interact, and they are changing as well. And that's what I mean by interacting. When you can change the date and a visual has changes, or it is reacting to the the dates being changed, that's letting you know that your model was set up correctly, because you're getting the interactions based on what you want the interactions to be based on. They're all working. So as you can see, I'm changing the date, the donut chart is changing, the line combo is changing, the bar is changing. I believe the clustered column with the years, they changed as well. When we move the date further out or further in, depending on what you call that, 2003 now is 2003, 2004, 2005. So now we can see that all of the visuals are changing based on the date ranges. The only visuals that are really not changing are the highs, the stock information, which is showing the open, the high, the low, the close, the 7-day high, and the volume. The reason why, well, I say that, but that is changing as well. So, I mean, it looks like everything is working. Was the stock table? So here's the deal. That stock information is changing, but it's changing depending upon what the date range is. There is not a full 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005 date range in this in the stock table. The stock table actually went back only 1 year. I want to say that the date that I took that the stock was pulled from, maybe March 11, 2025, maybe March 10, 11, somewhere around in there today. Yeah. So it may be somewhere around March 10, 11, 2025, and then it goes back a year to March 10 or 11, 2024. So the time period for 2023, 2022, 2021, it's not going to change there. There's not going to be any interaction there because there's not any values there. This is what I was showing you before, what I was talking about before, where the open, high, low, close could all be blank. The volume could be blank. That's because I pulled that data directly in from the table. But if I created a measure for each one of those different elements, that blank field would not have been there. It would have shown 0 because I would have created a measure, said +0, and then anytime that measure had a blank field, it would show 0. And the reason why I just said that we have blank fields is because there's nothing there for those date ranges that showed up blank. There's nothing there because the dates in the stock table do not match anything because there's no dates there. We only did the stocks for a year. If you can imagine, we can do stocks for as long as stocks are around, or as long as the company is around, or as long as the company is has been traded publicly. So with that said, that's the challenge there. But again, it's not necessarily a challenge. It's just a matter of creating the measures for those particular elements. With that said, man, here's the deal. We have wrapped up creating the CVS chart, the CVS Power BI report. Again, I want to reiterate the annual report, the 10K or the 10Q that we use for researching the annual report of CVS is real. You can go out to cvs.com, go into investor relations, or Google investor relations of CVS, and you'll be able to pull that information up. It is public information. The information that's in this Power BI report is a data set that we created that has nothing to do with CVS, but it gives us KPIs. It gives us KPIs that an organization or a company such as CVS or their competitors would be able to utilize in a Power BI report. But with that said, this has been great. It's been real. It's been real great sometimes. But anyway, once again, thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.